Hey everyone, welcome to the Zone of Tech. I'm Daniel, and I have here the famous Apple Pencil that everyone's been talking about lately. It's essentially a stylus for the iPad Pro, or better off, this is what gives the Pro in the iPad Pro's name. Without the Apple Pencil, the iPad Pro is simply just a larger iPad, an iPad Plus. But combined with the pencil, you get a lot more functionality out of it, especially if you're a graphic designer, since this is not a regular stylus. The Apple Pencil was designed specifically to work with the iPad Pro, and then the iPad Pro's display was designed to work with the Apple Pencil. They're like the perfect pair. Now, this thing is almost impossible to get right now. I did manage to get my hands on it early on, and I've spent the past week playing with this, and yeah, this is my review. Enjoy. Okay, so this is the Apple Pencil box. Let's open it up, and inside we get a booklet designed by Apple in California. Inside that booklet we get, oh, what's this? A replacement tip and an adapter, so you can charge this thing via lightning cable as well. Then we get a quick start guide on how to replace the tip and the 2 ways of charging this thing. Other than that, we get a warranty and safety guide, 2 of them actually, and no, apparently we don't get any Apple stickers, which is usually what happens with accessories. You only get those with, regular products. And there you go. This is the pencil. The Apple Pencil. So in terms of the design, well, there's not much to it. It's an all-white stylus made out of glossy plastic, so no premium materials here like aluminum, for example. The tip is made out of rubber, so it will wear out in time, but we do get a replacement one just in case. The top has a magnetic cap which lifts in order to unveil the male lightning port, and overall the pencil itself has a nice and classy look. In terms of how it feels, well, it feels pretty good. It doesn't feel too heavy or too light. The weight is evenly distributed towards the tip and feels quite like an actual pencil would. Now, in terms of how it works, this is the most precise stylus or graphic pen that you can get. And by precise, I mean that this thing has the least amount of latency. It's almost lag-free. When you draw something, it happens in an instant. There's no visible delay whatsoever. Feels quite weird, to be honest. Feels like I'm actually drawing on the screen. And that's because based on the angle I'm holding this, the iPad can predict the next position that the Apple Pencil will be at, and essentially draws the line before the pencil has finished surpassing a certain pixel. The iPad reads the pencil input at an astonishing 240 times per second, which by the way is twice as much than with just using your finger, and then displays the output at 60 frames per second. So that's the reason why there's almost no visible lag. The pencil also feels pressure, so the harder you press, the thicker the line will be. And you can also use this thing for shading, which a lot of graphical pencils actually lack. This thing is turning out to be pretty awesome, doesn't it? I'm quite the artist. You can leave a like if you think this drawing is cool, although I think it kind of sucks. So far the Apple Pencil seems like the best stylus / graphic pen that you can get right now. And for the latency part, well, that's true. But there are some things which make it, well, less impressive. For example, a lot of styluses, including the one the Microsoft Surface Pro 4 comes with, a lot of them have an eraser on the top. The Apple Pencil, well, it doesn't. If you need to erase something with the Apple Pencil, you'll have to switch to the eraser brush, and then, well, this is how you erase things. So expect the eraser to come next year with the Apple Pencil too. Now, another weird thing is how you charge it. You take the cap off, you plug it into the iPad, and I don't know, this looks like a really easy way to break it. Fortunately, you do get an adapter inside the box, so you can even dock this thing if you really want to. I mean, take a look at how awesome this thing looks docked. Seriously. And speaking of charging it, the battery life lasts for about 12 hours. However, you can charge it for just 15 seconds, and that will give you 30 minutes of usage, which is really impressive. Also, one thing to point out is that there's no battery life indicator on the Apple Pencil. However, if you go on your iPhone or iPad and enable the battery life widget in the notification center, you'll be able to see the battery life from there. Just take a look at how fast this thing charges. I mean, seriously. This is insane. Now, in terms of the actual apps, I think the main downside of this pencil is that you don't get any pre-installed drawing apps on the iPad Pro. Yes, you do get notes, but that's really basic. If you need something more professional, you'll need to buy those separately. Procreate and Pixelmator are the best graphic designing apps you can get for the iPad. I know this video is not sponsored by them. You get layers and a ton of brushes. So yeah, this is the closest you can get to having Photoshop on an iPad. Because speaking of Photoshop, there's no Photoshop CC on the iPad. However, Adobe does have some apps which are free, by the way, if you have an Adobe Cloud account. Photoshop Sketch or Fix or Mix are just a few examples. The only downside to them, especially with Sketch, is that they're really basic. Photoshop Fix does have quite a few neat features, like it does have liquify and face detection, which face detection that's not even on the desktop, so that's pretty cool. But the coolest part is that you can send the project straight to Photoshop on your desktop and continue working from there, which is awesome. And by the way, in case you need to use the iPad Pro as a graphics tablet for Photoshop, you can do that as well, but you'll have to buy an app called AstroPad, which is not that cheap. But yeah, that's possible as well. So yeah, there you go. This is my review of the Apple Pencil. If I were to pick one huge pro and one huge con, the pro would probably be the latency part. This thing is really accurate. It actually feels like a real pencil minus the friction, because yes, the iPad doesn't have as much friction as a sheet of paper does. So that's the main pro. And the biggest con would be the price. It's $99 for the pen alone, which is pretty expensive. And then you also need to buy some graphic apps because again, nothing is included in the box except for the Notes app, which is pretty basic. So I'll have to purchase those apps separately, and then you obviously need an iPad Pro because this thing doesn't work with the iPad Air 2 or the iPad Mini 4 or any other iPads except for the iPad Pro. And again, this is because the iPad Pro's display was created to work with the Apple Pencil, and the Apple Pencil was created to work with the iPad Pro's display. Most probably the iPad Air 3 will support this. I'm not so sure about the iPad Mini 5, probably not. But yeah, in case you need a graphic pen for the iPad Minis or the iPad Airs, Pencil by 53 is a pretty good option, or simply get a basic stylus, which is like £2 or $5. This thing is really cheap. Now, speaking of the iPad Pro, I've done a first impressions video a while ago, and I left that linked down below in the description box in case you're curious to see that. Now I'm just waiting for the iPad Pro keyboard so that I can do my full in-depth review. Got it. Well, that was fast. So yeah, this was basically it. This was my review of the Apple Pencil. So thank you for watching this video. Let me know in the comment section down below how many of you have a tablet, and if you have a tablet, do you have a stylus or a graphic pen or something like that? So let me know in the comment section down below. Also feel free to give this video a like if you have enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this one. Oh, and don't forget to enable email notifications on both desktop and mobile. On mobile by simply clicking that bell icon next to my channel so that you're notified whenever a brand new epic video comes out. But yeah, this has been pretty much it. So thank you all for watching this video. I'm Daniel, and I'll see you in my next one. Daniel, signing out. Cheers.